We're Kim and Al. We have been planning our escape from a fast-paced corporate life since we met 10 years ago. Freedom 45. This year, we finally pulled the ripcord. We quit our jobs, sold our home in the city, bought a property in the sticks, and are building an off-grid home ourselves. We're excited to share our experience as we create our new life on the North River.
Yesterday, there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go of disguise. And now, there's something in the air, and a sparkly shimmer on our skin, restoring everything within. Oh, dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other. Beyond gravel, beyond all.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Be free. Be free with me.
Hey folks, welcome to another installment of Cotton Candy House. We're crawling out of the dark ages little bit by little bit. Just wanted to walk you through some of the steps we had to take to get ourselves kind of a little bit more situated. So last time I explained a little bit about our ventilation system. We've added another run, so I added an additional T. So I have the one hose that hangs down to vent the furnace, and then closer to the exit from the building, another hose that drops down to vent the hot water propane heater. So reason we needed that is that we've augmented our water system, brought everything indoors. So I reconnected the pitcher pump, the hand pump, to the well, and we'll build a little box that's insulated, and I'll add a little light socket so I can run a 150 or 100 watt bulb in there just to thaw it out when we need it. So the idea will be, if I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to go all the way down to the river or chop through ice in the winter if it gets frozen over, then we can use our pump to just take some of the well water just to save us the effort on those days we're not feeling well or a little bit tired or whatever. But under normal circumstances, same as we did before, I'm bringing up 5-gallon pails of water from the river, and then we dump it in the top here, which is the strainer, which then, you know, filters out leaves and any large particulate. Then it goes into the sand filter, this heavy monstrosity, and then from there it drips down into our rain barrel. So before I brought it in, I gave it a good washing and cleaned it all out. In the rain barrel we add chlorine, basically a teaspoon per 5-gallon barrel, and let that, you know, treat anything that might have gotten past the filter. And what's great about that is it actually will spend a little time in that holding tank, so the chlorine can kind of vent off a bit, and then from there we pump it through the 3/4 horse jet pump, which runs to this black hose here, which goes down off camera where you cannot see, but it's that 20-gallon expansion tank that I had shown before. So we have the expansion tank and the T. The T has a relief valve, a overflow valve, and then a connection that we've rigged up for our garden hose. So that garden hose can be used when we flush our black water, the septic tank. We're just flushing that from the trailer straight into the collar, the pipe that's going to be eventually a toilet when we put a bathroom in here. But for now we're still using the trailer bathroom, and then when we dump the tank, it goes from the trailer straight into the septic tank via the plumbing that we embedded in the concrete when we poured the foundation. So that's how the black water system works, and the reason I mention that is that we use the hose and hook it up to that little connection at the back of the trailer to force water through. It's like a little feature of the trailer to wash off the sensors and help kind of clean out any paper and things that are left behind in the holding tank. As well, we use the same hose to get water into the trailer. So before, what we had was very manual. You would have to put the pieces of wood on top of the bucket so that you could set the filter, the sand filter bucket on top of that, which is heavy. And then on top of that, you place the strainer, then you pour the water in. Once the water is strained through and filled up the bucket at the bottom, then you take all that stuff off the top and then we were putting it on top of a ladder or a stand and then siphoning it into the trailer. Now what we're doing is just continually pouring water into the strainer, goes through the filter, we'll fill up the rain barrel, it's a 65-gallon barrel. When that's full to the top, we run the pump, fill the trailer to the top, and then refill the bucket. So the idea is that we want our 50-gallon freshwater tank full, and then a 65-gallon tank in reserve. So we'll keep that full and treated with the chlorine. Then we pump water from there into the trailer. It's a lot easier now, right? It's basically, instead of all this siphoning and taking on and off of buckets, we just turn on a hose like you would any other garden hose, and it runs under 50 psi into the trailer until it's full, and then we're good. Then we just have to bring additional water into there. So right now our potable water, we're either getting it from the spring or we buy it at the grocery store. Just those big 5-gallon, water cooler jugs. That's what we use for drinking and cooking and everything else. That's potable water. And then this treated water that we're filtering from the river and everything, that's just simply for dishes and showers and flushing toilets. So that's our kind of gray water system. That's the size of what we're at right now. It's funny, these seems like simple little steps and little things, but when you're doing this every single day, every little bit counts, and that's kind of what helps us find gratitude. Starting here, from scratch, basically pulling our trailer into a grassy field. Everything was incredibly manual and incredibly laborious, and little by little we're getting back some of these creature comforts, if you will. I know, Jack, you're out there, you're probably laughing at that one. For now, I'm perfectly happy. It's a good workout to haul a few 5-gallon pails of water every day, because honestly, 20 gallons of water is a lot of water. Unless you got a teenager, spending 15 minutes in the shower, you really gotta work to go through 20 gallons of water. So on top of that, just wanted to mention some of the issues with humidity that we've had. So given that we don't have our wood stove yet, and we're running off a propane furnace is honestly part of the combustion, produces water, so they actually create a lot of moisture. We are venting it out, but still some of that moisture is in the air that's blowing into the trailer, and then plus all the vapor from our breath overnight creates a pretty wet environment in here, because this is very well sealed. There are some air leaks and things, and that's okay. You don't want anything completely sealed, but it's pretty close to a hermetically sealed box. So what we're doing is drawing air out of the enclosure, out through that venting system, out the 4-inch pipe, and out a dryer vent on the outside of the building. What happens then is you're creating a vacuum inside the enclosure because you're pushing air out, even if it's a very minor vacuum. What I have right below it is a 2-inch ABS pipe that has a downspout, and what that does is, as soon as you create that vacuum, fresh air rushes in that opening and into the enclosure. And I've tested that even this morning. I went up and I put my hand over the pipe while the fan was off, and there was no draft, you couldn't feel anything, and then as soon as I plugged in the vent and started it up for the furnace, you immediately feel air blowing, like cold air blowing in from outside through that 2-inch pipe. So right now that's our very basic HVAC system to ensure we're getting fresh air in as we're running the furnace. We're sucking the exhaust out so we're not poisoning ourselves, and also creating that vacuum in the enclosure to bring fresh air in. But because of the moisture right now, because we don't have a continual radiant source of heat, we brought our dehumidifier in from the shipping container. So we've got that running right now, and it's done a really great job of, you know, getting the moisture to a point where there's no sweat on the windows or sweat on the vapor barrier, because it was a little bit juicy in here, if you will. But that's where we are so far.
So part of me, I was down and out, and nothing seemed to come my way. Here I go, this time I'll let it go. I never listen to what others say. So come and see, no matter what I do, head first into this hurricane. Yes I know, head high, let it go, but it hits me like the pouring rain. Oh, can't seem to fight this feeling, no matter what you call it. I only know that I got it bad. Whoa, can't stop it.
Hi guys.
Hello.
So we have a few updates for you from this week. Feeling pretty good about our little cotton candy house.
The box.
Yeah, we got the final wall Tyvek'd in, so we are completely dried in now, and we vapor barriered this wall as well. While we were doing that, we actually realized that the water problems that we were talking about on the sill plate last week, I believe it was last week, was it came up the wall a little bit. It came through the cracks on the OSB.
Yeah, the seams. So we thought originally the water was just coming down and underneath between the sill plate and the foundation, but it looks like when it was driving in with the heavy winds and we didn't have the house wrap on, it was getting in between the seams of the OSB and just making its way down the wall, and it pooled up at the windowsill on the one wall where we have the roughing for the 5-foot window, and then in key spots that were on the basically the southwest and southeast walls, they got kind of inundated at the bottom. So I just happened to notice it when I was going to seal the base of the vapor barrier with caulking, and you could see that the insulation was wet. Fortunately, we got away pretty lucky. It was just wet at the very, very bottom. And if you pulled it away, it was a little bit damp behind, but mostly dry. So what I did is I just cut the bottom of the insulation off that was sopping wet, and we just threw that out. It was about maybe an inch or two underneath some of the columns between the studs, and then pulled it away from the wall, and then we set up our little space heater, 1500 watt space heater, to just dry out everything, make sure it was nice and toasty. Then we replaced the insulation and resealed it.
Yeah, so that was a pretty stressful day for us.
For sure.
We weren't expecting to find that. Obviously we knew that we were supposed to wrap the house first, but because of the trouble with the roof and the weather and just trying to get everything done and switching jobs constantly, we just did what we could do when we could do it. So lesson learned, we should have wrapped the house first.
If we could say, obviously. There was kind of something in hindsight that we thought of, because we did the insulation straight away because we had the OSB on and we had taped the OSB, so we figured that was sealed, and then we were going to wrap it afterwards. But you know, in hindsight, and maybe I'm wrong, I haven't actually confirmed this, but I would think that the right order of operations would be you frame, and then you put your sheathing on, then you wrap it with the house wrap, make sure it's all sealed from the outside, then you do your insulating, because obviously if you're going to still have water leaking in your framing and that, you do not want your insulation to get wet. Wet insulation can dry out, but when you seal it all in with vapor barrier and everything else, it's too much water to you know, like some vapor can come in and permeate and get out, but not like a whole bunch, not like literally it was like a sopping sponge at the very, very bottom for the last like inch of insulation.
Yeah, so the rest of this week was basically us sealing up the bottom, like Al said, replacing that wet insulation, and then basically there were areas on the ceiling where we had to wait because we had to go around the post and things like that, so we had to do the vapor barrier, cut it out, and tape it a little bit differently, just to make sure everything was sealed properly. So we got that all done, and so we're pretty set in here, and it's even warmer than it was before. This wall made a huge difference, which, I mean, of course we should have known, but you know, getting the vapor in front of those windows and just getting it all sealed in, and also getting a lock on our door. We had bought that lock, but it came with some parts missing, so we had to replace it.
Yeah, public service announcement, always check for your open boxes, right? It must have been returned by somebody and no one bothered to check for all the stuff, and we just grabbed it off the shelf. So yeah, I was missing like key components, nothing I could find in my bag of tricks to MacGyver it. So it was like the two main bolts that join the outside to the plate on the inside of the door, and then the little flat piece of steel that actually goes into the tumbler to allow you to turn the lock and unlock it.
Yeah.
So we got a fresh one from Home Depot.
And we're really happy with it,
no
because
affiliation.
No keys and just a code. So
yeah,
we're trying to get away from keys where we can, because we've got a lot of them now with the shipping container and the farmhouse and the trailer, and so
yeah,
it's better to have less keys.
And the solar shed and the tractor and the truck.
Yeah, exactly. So another challenge we had this week was we've had a couple of dark days.
The batteries are low because when anybody doesn't know this, you have two solstices every year, right? The summer solstice around June 21st, and then the winter solstice around December 21st. June 21st being the longest day, and December 21st being the shortest. So right now, on normal cloudy days, like especially in the summer when you have a long day, all you need are a couple of breaks in the clouds, or even just light clouds. Like if it's not heavy overcast, system will charge up to 100%. It'll power most things, the fridge and obviously our computer and internet and the stuff that we use constantly. All that will run without problem all day long without depleting the batteries at all. So the idea is that when the sun sets, you have a full set of batteries, and that will carry us through the night to watch Netflix and whatever. And then there's always like a baseline amount of energy that is being pulled for the monitoring systems and things in the trailer. So no problem there. And even into the fall, we were pretty lucky. There was a couple of days where, we would put the trailer on the auxiliary batteries and then turn off all the draw from the solar system just to let it charge up on really cloudy days, and then we'd listen to podcasts and things. Reminded me of a kid listening to CBC radio and that, and those are fun days.
We love our podcasts.
Yeah. and go and do laundry and stuff. But now that the days are really short, if we get like 2 runs of cloudy overcast, the system really doesn't get enough juice to power up. So I hadn't gotten around to actually working out how to connect the generator. So we have 2 generators. One is a little 2 kilowatt generator, a Honda, but it's only 120 volt. Then we have a much more robust and very loud propane generator that produces, with propane, 6.5 kilowatts. And it has a 240 volt outlet. So I took the cable we had left over from when we ran to the service box. I wired a 240 volt plug to one end, and then I wired the other end into the external power input that's on the big white box, the power pack that sits in our shed, and then fired that up. Didn't work at first. I had the loose connection on the plug, so I diagnosed that. Tightened it up, made sure everything had continuity and worked, tested the voltage before I wired it up again, and then lo and behold, it kicked in the battery charger, and probably had to run the propane generator all said and done probably for about 2 hours in order to top the batteries up enough that we could run through the night. So we ordered another set of batteries. This is inevitably from all the do-it-yourselfers and people that we've watched. People try to get away with the minimum, which makes sense. Start with what you think you need and then add as necessary.
And the batteries are the most expensive part of the solar array. So
for sure,
you try to do what you can without having to get a bunch of them, but inevitably it seems everybody goes that route in the end.
Yeah, so we have 4 6 volt batteries. They're 460 amp hour, and they're wired in series to make 24 volts. It's a 24 volt system that we have. We're getting 4 more of those, so we're going to create another 24 volt bank in series and then wire those in parallel. So the idea is that 2 battery banks together in parallel means we double our longevity, like double the capacity. And so on like today's beautiful, today's super sunny. By 10 o'clock the system had charged right up, 29 volts, fully charged on float charge, and that's where you like it. We're running our humidifier off of it. Don't need the generator for that right now, so we're happy about that. So with another set of batteries, both of those would get charged up to the hilt, and then we'd be good for probably 2 days without sun. And and I'm saying 2 days with no sun. If it's cloudy, that's not so bad. We'll generate power on a cloudy day, but if it's like overcast and snowing or overcast and drizzling, where it's just like the whole day is like dusk, you just don't have enough output from the panels to charge the batteries in any significant way.
Nah. So we just wanted to get ahead of that because it was only 2 days, and I mean, we've watched some of these do-it-yourselfers who have gone 2 weeks without any kind of sun. They obviously live in different places than we do. We're kind of known for being a sunny area. Yeah,
we're really lucky that way. It's like one of the sunnier places in all of Ontario, the North Shore of the Great Lakes. So we're, you know, as far as being in a northern latitude in a winter climate, this is a good place for solar power. So more days than not are sunny, and even the ones that aren't usually have a break. Like we were looking at the forecast, and I think even on days where it's going to be snowing most of the day, it still calls for 2 or 3 hours of sun. That's all it really takes to top the batteries off. Yeah, so
But we have gotten to a point too where we use a lot less. Like, I mean, you just become so grateful for what you had before, and you don't realize, like, you know, leaving the lights on all the time and leaving your internet running all the time and all these things that you just do when you don't have to think about these things. It's a bit of a waste, and for us, it's just we're really
you
grateful.
See it, right? Like you don't notice it. Like if you got full-time jobs and you're making money, and if you are leaving your internet on full time, which everybody does, you don't think about it.
We used to too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just folded up in your bill, and when you work it out, pennies on the dollar, it's like, well, who cares? You know what I mean? I'd rather just have it there when I need it. But for us, it's not so much about monetary cost, it's just simply availability. So you just get in the habit, like we've got a little fob that we velcroed up above the bed, so at night, you know, before you go to bed, turn off the internet, because there's a heater inside the dish that actually thaws out the dish for the Starlink, and that draws power all night long if you're not using it. So it's just like treat everything like a light bulb. If you're not using it, turn it off, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where we're at, and yeah, this week we are. We have exciting things ahead.
Oh yeah, stay tuned.
Have a good day, guys.
Yeah, do that.